Okay, so let me go ahead and read verse 7. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which have the seven heads and the 10 horns. Okay, I didn't bring up the slides yet. Let me bring up the slides. Bring those up. Give me about a second here. Oh, I was going. Okay, let me know if you all make sure you all see the slide. You should see the slide. You see the slides, okay?
Yeah, just come on.
Okay. All right. Yeah, like I say, this is still Revelation 17, verse 7. And I'm gonna zoom down here.
It say part two.
Well, that part two is what this whole series is.
Okay.
Uh I'm gonna go down to let me zoom down through this here. Because this is the slide we left off on. Okay, that's the slide we left off on. Um, so I'm going to read verse 7 again here. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which have the seven heads and the 10 horns. So these 10 horns are not, again, as we said before, they're not the same as the 10 horns on which the dreadful and terrible beast was on in Daniel 7, when 3 horns were uprooted there. And there was no longer 10 horns. And the dreadful and terrible beast, the fourth beast of Daniel 7, lost his power in 476 AD. Neither are they the 10 horns of Revelation 13:1. So these 10 horns he's speaking of is not the ones in Daniel 7, not the ones in 13:1. These horns are attached to these horns in 13:1. These horns are attached to the sea beast or the papacy, which came out of the dreadful and terrible beast and gained its power in 538 AD. But the 10 horns in Revelation 13:1 got power during the 1260 rule of the papacy, during that first beast system, during the time of not the first beast, but of the fourth beast, during the time of the Roman Empire, that beast. Because remember, 13:1 and 2 is before the 42-month time began, which is what we're waiting on right now. It's before that time. So these 10 horns on the scarlet colored beast are not the same as either of the previous one mentioned in Daniel 7 or Revelation 13. but they are represented by civil state political powers attached to the scarlet colored beast. So when you go over to First Kings, go with me to First Kings. First Kings chapter 11. First Kings chapter 11, verse 31 and 35. Here we find, I'm going to read that. It says, this is First Kings 11, 31 and 35. And he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith Yahuwah the Yah of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because that they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Shemash, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in my eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as did David his father. Howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. In verse 35, but I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. So Rehoboam and Jeroboam, this is when it was divided up. Rehoboam got Judah and got Benjamin, and then 10 tribes was given to Jeroboam. And I mentioned that, I believe, yesterday or Sabbath, about that little ordeal with dealing with them. It might have been Sabbath. But the point being, 10 tribes was given to Jeroboam. And when you read further on, you will see what he did with those 10 kingdoms that he got. When you read further on, what's that? Oh, so Yahuwah gave Rehoboam, Solomon's son, 1 tribe, which was Judah, because of his servant David, again, his commandment. When Solomon knew that part of the kingdom was going to be taken away from him because of his idolatrous practices, and given to Jeroboam his servant, that's over in 1 Kings 11, 26 to 31, right before the verses we just got to read. He sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and he fled to Egypt. That's when Jeroboam fled to Egypt. And after Solomon's death, Rehoboam, Solomon's son, reigned in his stead. And after Solomon's death, the children of Israel sent and called for Jeroboam out of Egypt. And all the congregation of Israel met with King Rehoboam. Remember, like I was mentioning, to have the yoke removed off of him because of his father, Solomon. So, as I mentioned, King Rehoboam heard the advice from the older men. And he heard the advice from the younger men. The older men told him, if you take the yoke off his neck, he will serve you. He and the people that's with him will serve you all your days. But the young men told him, no, make it worse. Make the burden on him, make the yoke harder on him. So he took the advice of the young people. And then, of course, Jeroboam wound up fleeing, but Yah gave him 10 of the kingdoms. He gave him 10 kingdoms. However, the interesting thing about that is when you read further on, when you go to chapter 12, and you read even chapter 12 verses chapter 12 verses actually 25 to 33. But instead of reading all that, what I was going to say to you is that Jeroboam, he got the 10 kingdoms. He got the 10 tribes. But then, and they became like kingdoms, 10 kingdoms. If you look there, starting there with verse 27 in chapter 12 of First Kings. First Kings chapter 12. And you'll see, starting there with verse 27. And actually, let's just start with 25. Let's just start with 20. We won't read all this, but let's just start with 25. Then Jeroboam built Shechem in Mount Ephraim, and dwelled therein, and went out from thence and built Peniel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of Yahuwah at Jerusalem, and remember, Jerusalem is where it was set up at originally. That's where Yah had set it up and never was changed from that. Then shall the heart of this people turn again into their Lord, even into Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me. This is Jeroboam, and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah. Then 28. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold. So here we go. And said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, small g, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. I'll read these next 3 verses. And he set the one in Bethel and the other one in Dan. So he set up sites for the temples to be in Dan and Bethel like it was set up originally in Jerusalem. And this thing, verse 30, and this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. And he made a house of high places, and made priests of the lords of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi. And you can see here in the next verse, he set up a feast on the 8th month and the 15th day of the month, which he really actually changed the feast, because we know that the 7th month and the 15th day is the Feast of Tabernacle. And he actually made it a feast on the 8th month and the 15th day of the month. He made a feast. But again, I bring this story up because Jeroboam was given 10 kingdoms. He was given the 10 tribes. That's where you hear, sometimes you hear him say the southern tribe and the northern tribe. Well, he got the northern tribe. He got those 10 tribes. That's the northern kingdom. He got those. And Rehoboam got the bottom with Judah and Benjamin. And through the rebellion, that was actually rebellion, the 10 tribes that was given power, they actually rebelled against the house of David. And one time they rebelled against the house, and when Rehoboam, along with Benjamin, was going to fight against the house of Israel, and the word of Yah came unto Shemaiah, the man of Yah, telling him to speak to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and unto all the house of Judah and Benjamin. Remember, Judah and Benjamin represented the southern kingdom. And to the remnant of the people not to go up nor fight against their brethren. Thus they departed and did according to what Yahuwah told them to do in 1 Kings 12, 21 and 24. Now there was still that apostasy that went on. Those 10 tribes mentioned in 1 Kings 11:35, those 10 tribes followed their head, H-E-A-D, their king, into apostasy. The harlots from their mother, the mystery Babylonian the great. So when I look here at this story about Jeroboam, and I look at these 10 tribes that represented the northern kingdom, even though they were supposed to have been of a religious nation, they was more of a political nation too, because you think about it, the church portion of the system of the children of Israel was the Levitical system. All the other tribes were just, they were the other tribes. None of the services or any of that sort was done or orchestrated by them, because, you know, the scriptures give us over in Leviticus the order from which how the sacrifices and everything was supposed to be done, and that was through the Levitical system. So therefore, this right here, these 10 horns kind of remind me of the 10 kingdoms. But above all, Jeroboam, who was opposite of Rehoboam, but got into it with Solomon, fled to Egypt, then came back after Solomon died, hoping things would change, didn't listen. Rehoboam didn't listen to the older guys to keep the peace, but listened to the younger guys, and that caused the conflict. It caused jealousy. It caused everything else. That's why he created that false worship system. So we got a false worship system being done. But the thing that draws attention to me is Jeroboam. Jeroboam reminds me of like Mystery Babylon. Like the 10 tribes followed after her. Those tribes follow after her, just like in Revelation 13. Those horns follow after the sea beast. Here in Revelation chapter 17, verse 7, these horns, even though they are attached to the woman, attached to the sea beast, which is the dragon, which is Satan, they still are going to give homage to everybody. Remember what it said in Revelation 13? All the inhabitants, the kings of the earth, all of them, all inhabitants. The world is going to wonder after this beast. So every time I think about Jeroboam, I always think about the sea beast, the papacy, because that's what the sea beast represents. So that's the reason why I was really, in essence, bringing that story up, because it really rings a lot of bells to me. Something else that rings to me as well. You all remember we talked about will worship, how we talked about will worship. And that's exactly what happened in 1 Kings 12, 28 to 33, what we just read. I didn't read 32 and 33, but that was part of it. And that is that Jeroboam set up his own worship system. He did it based on himself wanting to do a worship system, setting up his own temple location, Bethel and Dan, setting up his own priest to take the place of the Levitical priest, setting up his own feast days, setting up a false worship. And it tells you in the beginning, one of the reasons why he did it, because he was concerned that the people would gravitate back to Rehoboam. So he set this up to turn their eyes toward these false gods. He started off by making 2 calves of gold. And then that interesting that he made 2 calves of gold. And this sea beast, this woman in Revelation 17, that's part of her makeup is gold and silver. That's part of her makeup. That's what she wears. That's the thing I showed you the other day, the picture that I showed you all of the papacy and some of their belongings, some of their riches, because they are the richest conglomerate in the world, the Roman Catholic system. They don't even know everything they own. So it was very trying for them to set up his own system of worship. And this whole scenario reminds me of this end time events that's coming upon us, which this woman adjoins the harlots, which history said would happen again. Before, if you remember, had all these, all the people during that time was part of the Catholic system. And then when the beast really started flourishing with his power, then later on, as time went on, then he already had his system laid out, so forth, the heads in Revelation 13:1. The heads are already laid out because the heads are the system of the Catholic hierarchy that we went through the other day. The papacy is the head, the archbishop, then the bishop, then the priest, then the deacon. I think I missed one. Reverend, then the deacon, then the laity. Thank you, Eric. I forget. That's who I was missing. So it's to go back. So it's the papacy, it's the cardinals. They're the second. I don't know how I missed them. They're the second one. The cardinals, the archbishop, the bishop, the is it the reverend or the priest? No, the priest, the deacon, the reverend, I think, and then the laity. So those seven, yeah, Pope, cardinals, archbishop, bishop, priest, deacons, and laity. That's the heads. So that was already established. But what reminds me of these 10 horns is those dynasties. Those dynasties that was during the time of the beast system in Revelation 13:1. They were doing what the papacy told them to. They followed the papacy, a total separation. Here is just as word. These tribes were part of Israel, and they were separated to the northern kingdom, and then they started following their leader Jeroboam, and he led them to other gods, as the scripture said. He led them to other gods, which is no different than what Revelation chapter 17:5 said, that we're dealing with a mystery Babylon. Let me go and get back to that verse. A mystery Babylon, the great, the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth. When I think of these horns, and I think about those horns in 13, and I think about these abominations, these harlots, that's what I think about. They following this system of Catholicism. But that's the reason why it comes to mind to me about this specific one, because this is will worship, the thing I was talking to you about over in Colossians. I think was it Colossians? I'm trying to go by memory. I think it was Colossians 2:23. I think, yeah, Colossians 2:23, where it was talking about will worship. You know, really doing.
Are you saying? Are you saying will worship? W-I-L?
Yeah, W-I-L-L.
Okay.
Worship. It's over there in Colossians chapter 2, verse 23.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll see it in there. It's called will. It's got a hyphen between it. It's called will worship. So again, I want to emphasize that I'm not, it may sound like it. That's only because people are caught up in it. I'm not condemning individual people. I'm condemning a system. But if the people are in the system, then they got to do what Revelation 18:4 says. They got to come out of it. It says, come out of her, my people. You're in a system that is corrupt. Sad to say. Again, I'm not condemning individuals in each of these denominations or the Catholic system or any religious organization, because because Yah has his people everywhere. But he is telling them to come out, and no matter where they at, whether they out on the streets, he tells them to come to him. Whether they in some denomination or some group or whatever it may be, wherever they at, that they're not in him, he's telling them to come out of that system of Babylonian system, that mystery Babylonian system. Is no longer the literal Babylon like went through yesterday. Is no longer the literal Babylon, because they're done away with. They were finished in the 1st century. We're now dealing with spiritual or mystical Babylon, because now today the world is following the ways of literal Babylon. That's the reason why it calls it mystery Babylon. So the scriptures tell us in Acts 17:30 Somebody read Acts 17:30. And then somebody else also read Acts 5:29.
Okay, I have Acts 17:30. And the times of this ignorance Yah winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent.
Okay, so that's understandable. It's understandable that people could be ignorant. In other words, they don't know something yet. That's okay. But what's not acceptable is what Hosea 4:6 always say, which is not acceptable, is intentional ignorance. When Yah brings something to your attention, when he's trying to get you to study, when he's trying to get you to do this and do that, and you intentionally neglect that and not want to read it and follow it, then that's intentional ignorance. And scriptures here, even if when you read the last of this verse, it says, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. Even though he understands that we may be ignorant on things, we may be ignorant on a lot of things, but now he's telling us it's time to dig into it now. It's time to get a relationship, time to repent and move forward, confess our sins, walk in that light and move forward. It's that time now. That's what he's telling us. He understands that we don't understand certain things, but he's telling us you can understand as long as you come before him, confess your sins, because he is faithful and just to forgive us of our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Lay our hand up, lay ourselves upon the throne before him, kneel down and asking him to have mercy upon us, because we really do need it. And I'm gonna read these verses again here. I've read them. I can't tell you how many times I done read this, but I got to keep on saying this because I don't know how many people really truly understand what this is saying, even though it's clear. Not necessarily here, but I've said this to other people too. Isaiah 9, verse 15 and 16, where it says, the ancient and the honorable, he is the head. And the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail. For the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. You know, I think it's interesting. I'm going to go back for a second. Right here. Uh-oh. I was saying this thing keep. Hold on a second here. Right here. So if you notice on this drawing, when you read Revelation 17, going back to 17, 17 tells us in verse 3 that this beast had blasphemy written all over it. It had blasphemy. I mean, it was blasphemy written all over it. But you know, I added in here this tail. Look at the tail. Is Isaiah 9, 15 and 16. Because this blasphemous beast, which is Satan, which is the devil, this blasphemous beast is a liar, and the truth is not in him. He is a liar. So that tail is part of him. He's a liar. He commits blasphemy all over him. Not on the head, not just on the head. It's everywhere. It's all over him. All over him. Names full of blasphemy. That's what we're going to be dealing with in these last days. A lot of that. So it is mandatory that we start proving what we are listening to and being taught, and stop following every wind of doctrine. According to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 14. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 14. It says that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the slay of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. And that's exactly what they do. They lie in wait. You know, there are certain people that leech on weaknesses. When people have weaknesses out there, they leech on it. That's how Jim Jones, 900 people went to that island and he found weaknesses in them. They all fought, they all went to that island and they all were killed. David Koresh there in Texas, in Waco. You know, all them people that had died, I think it was 70-some people that died. And he had children and wives, I guess it is. But it's just people are following people, man. They're just going by whatever people are saying. We need to get out of that condition of tradition. We need to get out of the condition of tradition because it will not save us. It does not matter how long you have been in it. We just need to get out of it before it's too late. Colossians 2:8. Colossians 2:8. Colossians 2:8. Beware. It says beware. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the traditions of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach. It does not matter how long we've been in it. We just got to get out of it, guys. Take heed. When it comes down to it, we must stand for ourselves. I mean, come what may, you know, church, assembly, pastors, priests, family, father, mothers, siblings. They can't represent you before Yah. You have to stand on your own merits. You have to stand on your own merit. Now, you can be held accountable for what you say and do because you can impact somebody else in your ways. But you yourself, you are responsible for yourself. Even a person that's listening to someone that's telling them falsehood, that person is still responsible for themselves because they didn't have to listen to it. If they studied Yah's word, they would know whether to rebuke that person or whether to believe that person. But if they don't study, they don't know either one. So then what happens? They stay where they're at. They stay stagnant where they're at. So let us bring this home now, at least this little part of it. Following the ways of the system and not studying for yourself is not an excuse. There will be no excuses whether you love him. He said, whether you love him and are obedient or not. There's not going to be any kind of excuses. Ecclesiastes 12:13-14 tells you what the conclusion of the matter is. Revelation 12:17 tells you that we got to keep the commandment and have the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach. Revelation chapter 14, verse 12 also tells us that we have to keep the commandments as well. We have to keep the commandments in chapter 14, verse 12, and the faith of Yahushua. This is the conclusion of the matter. That's the bottom line. Now let's go to Revelation 17:8.
Hey, Brother Birch.
Yes, sir.
You still want us to read Acts 5:29?
Oh, yeah, you can read. Yeah, I did say that. Yes. Yeah, you can go ahead and read that. 5:29.
Then Peter and the other apostle answered and said, we ought to obey Yah rather than man.
And that ties in, everyone. That ties into what I just got you talking about. We're all going to be held accountable for ourselves. Either we're going to obey Yah, or we're going to obey everybody else. Either we're going to obey Yah, we're going to obey everybody else. We got to make a choice here. Because I don't think people understand. I think to a certain extent, people don't really grasp the understanding of what the scriptures is saying here. When we're not following what the scripture says, and we're in a system of deceit and don't realize it's a system of deceit, that is because we're not following him, because we're not studying, guys. There's no way in the world that you would be caught up in a false, deceitful system if you're studying the word like everyone else is that's not caught up in it. There's no way Yah is going to allow these 20 over here that's studying not to be caught up in it, but allow these 10 over here to be caught up in it, and they studying like those over here studying. It don't work like that. When you're diligent, Yah be diligent with you. And that's what he's looking for from us, to be diligent. He's looking for that. Now let's go to 17:8. Revelation 17:8 says, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose name was not written in the book of life from the foundations of the world, when they beheld or behold the beast that was, is not, and yet is. So now we have already identified from before the scarlet colored beast as the dragon or devil of Revelation 17:3, not the papacy. The papacy is only being used, as so many other religious and political leaders have been throughout history, by the devil. Because remember, Revelation 13:2 and 4 tells us who gave the papacy, who is the sea beast of Revelation 13, who is the woman of Revelation chapter 17. It tells us who gave her the power. And it was Satan. Satan's the one who gave her the power. Therefore, the beast John saw was Satan, symbolizing in some type of beast form. It is Satan that was. He let out, is now. He's the one that's going to continue for a short space, which we ain't got to the verse 10 yet. Also in 1 Peter 5:8. 1 Peter 5:8, where it says, be sober, be vigilant. Let this talk to us. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, he is our adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion walking about, seeking whom he may devour. Seeking whom he may devour. Is not in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Revelation 20, verse 1 through 3. And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. The devil, after the 1,000 years, he was loose, or ascended out of the bottomless pit, and was loose for a season. Revelation 20, verse 5, and then 7 and 8. So if you recall, this verse was one of the references used to prove the scarlet colored beast is the devil. This verse 8 was one of them, because this bottomless pit is referencing to the devil. That's who it's referencing when we talked about that Sabbath.
Hey, Brother Birch.
Yes, sir.
Also, Revelation 9, that it tells you too.
I haven't gotten to Revelation 9, but what you going to say about Revelation? Oh, you said, you talking about chapter 9?
Yeah, chapter 9, where it said they had a king over them at the bottomless pit.
Right. You want to read that for him, because that's the trumpet. That's trumpet 5. I've actually getting ready to say that, Rich.
Oh, okay.
Well, we think alike. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But you can go ahead and read it because I had it marked here. That was literally the next thing. The Greek G12 abysso. So you wanna read? Well, let me read Mark 5:10 first.
Okay.
Mark, I had Mark 5:10 on here for some reason. Mark 5:10. Oh, this is referring to uh, the devils that were in, or the demons that were in Legion. It's referring to Legion. There was one of the other gospels tell you that Legions was approximately 2,000 devils that was in him, and it said he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there high in the mountain a great herd of swine feeding. So those devils that were in that man knew who it was that was walking up to him. They knew that it was Yahushua that was walking up to them. And they was asking, they said they didn't want to go back they didn't want to go before their time. See, the scriptures tell us in Jude, verse 6, I think it is, that the angels, the fallen angels, which are the demons, which are the devils, that they have been reserved to the end to be destroyed. Go to Jude, verse 6. There's only one chapter in Jude. Only one chapter in Jude. Somebody read Jude verse 6.
Jude 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day.
Right. So the angels, the fallen angels, just like Satan, are going to be reserved to the end. They're not going to die before then. That's why the legions, 2,000 demons that was in him. That's a lot of demons that was in him. They actually asked, when you read the other verses, they actually asked to be in essence to go in those swines because they were saying that they didn't want to be destroyed before their time. Was before their time. Well, that's going to be their time when they're finally destroyed at the end of the 1,000 years. So they went down. Yah put them in those swine, and they ran off into the ocean, into not ocean, but into the sea. So I say that just to mention that this deep or this abyss or this bottomless pit or this darkness or this place where these devils are going to be cast at the end. The scriptures talk about it being the bottomless pit. And Rich, you can go ahead and read. I don't know. I had down here verse 1 and 2 and 11. I don't know which ones you have.
Same thing.
Okay, you want to read those so they can hear this? This is another reason why we know it's the devil when he's talking about the beast here. That's what Rich is talking about. So go ahead, Rich.
And the fifth angel sound, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the keys of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as a smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. Verse 11. And they had a king over them, which the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue, Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue, have his name, Apollyon. And I know also about the fallen angels, also Tartus, 2 Peter 2:4.
2:4. Right. Right. And that's the 2 Peter 2:4, where it speaks about, it says hell in English, but that's Tartarus when you go in the concordance. That's the only place in the entire scripture where the word Tartarus is being used in representation of hell. That's the only place that is being used. And that's where they were cast that down before the earth was created. They were kicked out of heaven and they were in darkness before the earth before Yah created the earth. When I say create the earth, he pulled the waters back and the land appeared and he called it earth. But before that creation of all that, Satan was already kicked out of heaven. He was already kicked out. So that could answer pretty much is the reason why verse 2 in Genesis 1:2 talks about this place was dark and void. It was an abyss because Satan and his angels they were in this water. It was in this darkness. So when you go to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against. Oh, somebody gonna read it?
You can go ahead and read.
You go ahead.
Okay, Ephesians 6:12 reads, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places."
Understand, everybody, that by the grace of Yah, that every last one of us make it into the kingdom. When we make it into the kingdom, the very things that we are challenging with today while we're here, we won't have those challenges in heaven. So if we're dealing with financial situations, we're dealing with health issues, we're dealing with children, we're dealing with family members, we're dealing with friends, we're dealing with just work, all these issues and things that's going on down here, rest assured that when we get to heaven, Yah say all that stuff is going to be wiped away. It's not going to even be any death, nothing. We're not going to have any of that. So we'll be able to understand clearly when the scriptures in Philippians 4:8 and in Philippians 4:8 when it tells us specifically, finally, brothers, while we here, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, be any praise, think on these. When we get to heaven, we're only going to be our mind is not going to be on anything but good stuff. It's all going to be good. We're going to be in the presence of Yahuwah. Sin and all that stuff going to be wiped away from us. All the ailments that we have are going to be wiped away. Any kind of hearing impairment like I have, that'll be wiped away. Any eyesight problems that we have, all that stuff, all the physical, all the mental, all that stuff, man, we're going to remember what he said. Remember what he said in Revelation 21. Was it 21:5? I think it was. Remember what he said in 21:5, I think it was. In 21:5. And he said, and he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, write, for these words of faith are true and faithful. All new, guys. We're going to go into a new system. Everything new. We ain't never witnessed all new.
Hey, Brother Birch.
Yes,
I have precept on Ephesians 6:12.
Okay, go ahead and give it to me.
Ephesians 2:2.
Which one?
Ephesians 2:2, chapter 2, verse 2.
Okay.
Wherein in time past ye walk according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of the disobedience.
Mm. Yep. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. So what we're doing right now, we're looking at verse 8 in chapter 17, and we're looking at this bottomless pit, because that's one of the key factors that correlates us directly to the beast. And what we did is, we're doing here, the bottomless pit appears 7 times in the scriptures in this form or construct of words, bottomless pit. And only in the book of Revelation does they appear. Now, reviewing each of these, there are 7 of them. That's interesting, 7 of them. Revelation 9:1, the one Rich mentioned earlier. Here we find the trumpet of the 5th angel sounded, and the star fell from heaven, which could only mean Satan. He had to be outside of the pit to get the key that was given to him, which makes sense because when you go over to 1 Peter, was it 1 Peter 5:8, whichever one it was, it said he's a roaring lion seeking who he can devour. Well, if he's a roaring lion seeking who he can devour, it's already been identified in messages past that he's in the wilderness. The wilderness is the holy place. So he's out here trying to go after all of us. That's what he's trying to do, go after. He ain't going to be outside of there. He's going to be inside there, where we all at, trying to deceive us, seeking who he can devour. The second example, of course, is in Revelation 9:2, the next verse, showing that the pit had been closed, but now Satan can open it. Okay, 9:11. This verse identifies the king over the flying scorpion locust, which is Satan, this king, by the name of Abaddon, which means destroying angel, and Apollyon, which Richard just mentioned, which is G623, means a destroyer, or it says Satan. That's 3 examples of that. The 4th example of this bottomless pit is all in Revelation. Revelation 11:7. The verse is referencing Satan, but emphasizing it's the same beast mentioned in Revelation 17:8. It's the same beast in Revelation 17:8. Then it's kind of like just added information to let us know it is the devil that will be the cause of the deaths of those lying in the street for 3.5 days before the close of verses. It is the devil. He just kind of let us know who it's talking about. It's not referencing anybody else. So when you go to the 5th example, which is Revelation 17:8, which is the one we in, we already identified this verse, and it is Satan ascending out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, which he will be destroyed in the lake of fire. He will be destroyed. The 6th example of talking about the bottomless pit is in Revelation 20, verse 1, where Satan was bound in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. So that's how we know it's Satan is that beast. Then Revelation 20, verse 3, after the 1,000 years, Satan will be loose a little season. That's also Revelation, like I said, 20, verse 3. And yes, the bottomless pit can mean spiritual darkness as well. But the application in these 7 verses applies to Satan literally and Satan only. So the word perdition, the Greek word apolia, which is G684, it means utter destruction, perishing. Utter destruction, perishing. Somebody go with me to John chapter 17, verse 12. I think I got the right one. 17:12. Yes. 17:12. This is the exact same reference, G684. And these are Yahushua's words. Somebody want to read that?
John 17:12. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou gavest me, I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled.
The son of perdition, that the scriptures might be fulfilled. I wonder who the son of perdition is. Anybody got an idea?
No, it's Satan, but at that time it was he was talking about Judas, but Satan was in Judas.
Must have been Judas. Who else? Who else? Even though he's saying, yeah, he was the son of perdition.
Yeah,
But
because
in our time, from a spiritual, from a Ruach standpoint, yes, at that time that was Judas. But from a spiritual standpoint, who could that? Who would be the son of perdition?
the Pope,
Who is it?
the Pope, right?
Yeah, that's who I would say. I would say that based on Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. Actually, verse 3 through 9. Actually, just verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Same words, same reference.
Hey, brother Bert, I had something on that though.
All right, go ahead, give it to me. Give it.
I know there was Judas, but we have to remember Satan entered Judas, which what led to the destruction, destruction of Judas, where he took his life after the fact. And I know Satan gonna be working through the Pope
Right.
at the end, so still he gonna lead him to destruction because
Yes,
Satan.
that-
One name Satan is death. So once he entered, then he gonna lead them to destruction.
Absolutely. That's all he does. Anything he puts his hands on, anything he touches, anything he influences, all lead toward death. In that verse, going back to verse 8, in that verse, it mentions they that dwell. Okay, so those upon whom, because read that verse, the ones that were not named, not written. So those whom the horse sitteth upon, verse 1, and who have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication, verse 2, that's the one he's referring to here. Revelation 13, 3 and 4, Revelation 13, 7, 8, 12, 4, and 14. And of course, Revelation 17, 1 and 2. And then it uses the word wonder. You see, wonder. Shall wonder, and that's be amazed, be marveled. So you remember what happened there in chapter 13, right? Remember what it said? What happened there in verse 13:3? And I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death. It was wounded. The papacy ruled during 538 to 1798, that 1260-year period that the scriptures called over in Daniel 7:25, time, and dividing the time. Time is 1 year, times is 2 years, that's 3 years now, and then half of a time is 6 months, so that's 3.5 years. And we know that Numbers 14:34 and Ezekiel 4:6 tell us that a day is as a year. So that prophetic time would be 1,260 days or 1,260 years, a day as a year. So that's why it's 538 to 1798. So that's the wound. So he got wounded in 1798. But then it says, and the deadly wound was healed. Now, that's what we're waiting on now. Because when he gets healed, he's going to have his beast power back. See, this whole thing, when it says he was wounded, that's because he no longer has his beast power. But when he gets healed, that means he's going to get that power back, and he's going to be having the earth beast that's going to be helping. In the same chapter, that's the one going to be giving image to him. He's the one going to be helping the earth beast, the sixth beast, the sixth head. But then in that same verse, it then tells you all the world wondered after the beast. And the beast in this chapter is the sea beast. It's not the beast of Revelation 17, because Revelation 17, the beast is Satan, because the woman will be equivalent to the sea beast. That's the church. That's the Roman Catholic system. It's the sea beast. So the sea beast of Revelation chapter 17 is the same as the sea beast of Revelation chapter 13 is the same as the woman in Revelation 17. That chart that I sent you all should show it that way. So you'll be able to see that those tables, and you'll see how they're assigned. It's important to get that factor straight, because that would then help you out a lot in understanding the chapters much better when you understand who the players are. When you have an idea who the players are, then you'll get a better understanding of what it's all about there. Then it says not written, going back to 17 verse 8. When it says we're not written, well, we know what that is. We're not, that's pretty easy. We're not written in the book of life. We know what the book of life is. You don't know what the book of life is, it's only going to be two things going to happen. Remember, everything twos. If you go to Revelation 20, verse 15, what does it say? And whosoever was not found written in the book of life, that's one, was cast in the lake of fire. That's two. So you got one or two choices. And then when it talks about from the foundation, the Greek may understood as implying that the names appearing in the book of life have been written there ever since the foundation of the world, or simply that the book itself has been in existence since that time. So here, the latter is more what it is. The book has been there. The book has been there. You know, the book has been the book of life. You go back into the old covenant and you see it talking about the book of life. You know, even over in Exodus, over in the book of Exodus, we talked about it before in verse chapter 32 in the book of Exodus, where it speaks about the time where the children of Israel did that great sin and building that golden calf. And Moses said in verse 31, and Moses returned into Yahuwah and said, oh, this people have sinned a great sin and made them gods of gold. 32 and 33. Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of the book which thou hast written. What book is he talking about? Well, you got to be talking about the book of life, because it said blot him out. It says, and Yahuwah said unto Moses, whosoever have sinned against me, him will I blot out my book. And we know you can be blotted out because Revelation 3:5 tells you that. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. Revelation 3:5 says, he that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not block his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. The beast that was is now and is not in that bottomless pit. Talk about Satan. And yet is after that 1,000 years. This is all but nothing but the devil. That's who it is. Nothing but him. Nothing but the devil. So let's go here. I want to go here. Verse 9. And here's the mind which have wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So here is this is real. This is Rome was actually built on 7 hills. So this is just not some makeup stuff. This is actually, it was built on, in the word, in the what you see written underneath there is Latin. I believe that's written, that's Latin words for it, I believe. But those are the 7. That little red area that's marked off, that's Rome. That's the Vatican. In Rome, which Rome is in Italy. And that little area right there, that little area is its own state, its own governing body, its own political system, its own judicial system, its own religious system. In that little red box, that's the Vatican, the whore of Revelation. That's it, 7 heads. So the mind, notice it says, so the mind that has wisdom, 7 heads or 7 mountains on which the woman sits, is letting us know who it's talking about here. It's letting us know who it's talking about. And remember now, there may be other places in the world that may be sitting on hills. Because I know Cincinnati has a bunch of hills. But you got to meet the criteria of what the scripture says in order for it to be just any old place. Rome meets the criteria. From all the way from Daniel chapter 7 or chapter 2, mainly chapter 7, all the way to here. It matches the criteria. It matches the fact that it came out of the Roman system. From the Roman system, it had 10 horns. The 10 horns was devoured by that little horn. That little horn is now going to be called the beast of Revelation. Now the beast of Revelation has heads and horns on him because he's a controlling beast. He's out there dictating to the other kings of other nations of what to do. And at the same time, it is the head of his hierarchical system. And here it is, this little bitty nation right here ruled everything. That's what we're looking at, where the Pope sits at. Where he sits at. The angel introduces his explanation of this beast that was and is not and yet is. He introduces him to him. So what John had been shown was a mystery. He's been shown a mystery. In a sense, that reality has been concealed in a symbolic language. And it will require wisdom to understand the figurative in terms of literal. Although the angel's statement probably refers mostly to mysterious things of verse 8, and thus especially to the explanation of these next 2 verses, 9 and 10, it is also true of the entire vision of the explanation of verses 10 through 18, as well as the 10 horns in verse 12. So in other words, all this stuff here that we're reading about now is what John is getting a vision of, is a mystery, but it's something that's going to happen. And that's why the scripture says there, and here is the mind which has wisdom. It's Yah, and we know the scriptures tell us that wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. But above all thy getting, get understanding. The scriptures also tell us that wisdom and knowledge and understanding come from Yah. So we have to get to the wisdom is not of ourselves. Yah gives us the wisdom and the knowledge to be able to comprehend and put things together, to get it to make sense, get understanding of things, better understanding. I mean, today, I can better explain this today better than I could 2 years ago, better than I could 4 years ago, better than I could did 6 years ago. I like to think that as time goes on, the next year, that I'm even more inept in understanding more of what I'm studying to add on to what I already have given. Not to take away, but to add on to what it is. I believe that's the reason why he puts that in there like that. You know, is in our mind, which have wisdom. So we got to think this out. So the 7 heads is going to be identified in the next in verse 10. I don't know if we get to verse 10 or not. I think yeah, we do. Verse 10. As well as the 10 horns in verse 12. And that one I don't know. We're just going to touch upon a little bit. The scriptures say that the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sit in verse 9. Then verse 18 say that the woman who was seen in the great city which reigned over the kings of the earth. So this woman that is Mystery Babylon, that has harlots, she's the mother of the harlots. She is riding on top of Satan, the dragon, the beast, who has 7 heads and has 10 horns. Also, in that whole entire chapter, you have separate entities. You have the 7 heads, which is different than the 10 horns, which is different than the kings of the earth, which is different than the woman, which is different than the beast, which is different than the 10 horns. Yes, the 10 horns have kings for 10, they are kings, and they are part of it, but they still separate entities. That's why they are labeled separately. And we do know they're going to come under the rule of the papacy because, again, the world wondered after the beast. The world worshiped the beast. Of course, that leaves out us, the remnant. We're going to be part of the remnant. I'm praying we all part of the remnant. Therefore, we're left out of that. I want to be left out of that. So, the mountains, a common prophetic symbol designating political or religio-political power. If you go to Jeremiah 17, verse 3, Isaiah 17, verse 3, can somebody also get Jeremiah 51, 24 to 26? I'll read 17:3. It says, "O my mountain in the field, I will give thy substance." He's talking about people, but he's using mountain. "And all thy treasures to the spoil, and thy high places for sin throughout all thy borders." See, he's talking about Judah there. He's speaking about his mountain. Now go over to Jeremiah 51, 24 to 26. Jeremiah 51, can somebody read that 24 to 26? Jeremiah 51, 24 to 26.
"And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith Yahuwah. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith Yahuwah, which destroyeth all the earth, and I will stretch out my hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain, And they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundation, but thou shalt be desolate forever, saith Yahuwah.
You know, when you go back, it says there the old destroying mountain. You know, Judah is represented the mountain. You know, Judah, not only was they very idolatrous, not only were they sacrificing their children, but they were killing too. They were murderers. They were destroying people. They was doing everything that's going on today. They doing everything. They were killing. And to shed, scripture uses the terminology shedding blood. They did a lot of that. And it was God brought condemnation upon Judah. Because at this point now, remember, Israel, the 10 tribes that was given to Jeroboam, they had already been taken over in 721 BC by the Assyrians. So they were already out of the picture. Now it really was that one that Yah left was Judah. And Judah now, because of their disobedience, because of their idolatry, because of their murders, because of their fornication, Yah brought condemnation on them by bringing the Babylonians in and destroying them over in 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verses 17 to 21 in particular. So this symbol of this mountains may also be used to identify the city of Rome here. Quirino Hill, Vimino Hill, Capitoline Hill, Esquiline Hill, Palatine Hill, Calian Hill, Avatine Hill. Classical writers often refer to Rome, city of the 7 hills. In the early centuries, Christians commonly referred to Rome as Babylon. Go over to 1 Peter 5:13. 1 Peter 5:13. This is when this is Peter talking. The church that is in Babylon. This is 1 Peter 5:13. The church that is in Babylon, or the assembly that is in Babylon, elected together with you, salute you, and so doeth Marcus, my son. Babylon became of non-existence after the first century. They became of non-existence. This is during the first century. After the first century, they became extinct, more so or less. I mean, you still got artifacts and remnants from them, but as a nation and all that, they were done. They were through dealing. It was done. They were done. So again, the Christians were commonly referred to in Rome as Babylon, probably to avoid considering as undermining the power and authority when they spoke and wrote concerning Rome's anti-Christian activities and the impending judgment of Yah upon her. In view of the historical relationship of ancient Babylon to the people of Yah in Old Testament times, the term Babylon, as applied to Rome in its relation with Christianity, was appropriate. So, in essence, think about it for a second. Yah put the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the midst of the garden. And the woman and the man fell. Yah put the children of Israel in the midst of the Baal cities, 17 of them, still around the whole area there of Canaan, testing them out. And here it is. When they went out, they had a church assembly set up in Babylon. Just like we today, our assembly is in mystical Babylon right now. This whole system that we're in right now is mystical Babylon. That's what we in. We in. If you don't think we in it, all you gotta do is go online. We're in that. That's what we're in. Little Babylon, as far as being a beast power, ended in 539. But the nation continued on, but it was conquered by the Persians, conquered by the Grecians, conquered by the Romans. But then it died out by the 1st century. So the scriptures tell us, so I'm letting you know this, the scriptures tell us that the little Babylon was going to be done away with anyway. That's why when you read Revelation 15:5, 17:5, it doesn't say Babylon, it say mystical Babylon, mystery Babylon. And if you go to Jeremiah 25, go to Jeremiah 25. Jeremiah 25. Jeremiah 25, verses 12 and 13. And it shall come to pass when 70 years are accomplished. That's the prophecy that was given to Babylon, and they will rule for 70 years, which is the same time as how long that Judah was going to be there in bondage. And it shall come to pass when 70 years are accomplished, in other words, finished, that now that I will punish the king of Babylon and the nation. And that's what happened in chapter 5 of Daniel, when Belshazzar was killed by Darius/Cyrus, when he was killed there because he was the one that was drinking out of the vessels and he saw the handwriting on the wall. And then later on that evening, he was destroyed. So Yah is completing his word. He's finishing. He's telling us what he's doing. And it says that I will punish the king of Babylon and the nation, saith the Lord, saith Yahuwah, for their iniquity and the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it a perpetual desolation. And I will bring upon that land all my words which I have pronounced against it, even all that is written in this book, which Jeremiah had prophesied against all the nations. Daniel already was given that vision, well, at least Nebuchadnezzar, he interpreted the vision. Remember of the head of gold? If you go to Daniel chapter 2, for example, I tell you, man, Yah's word is powerful. It don't contradict itself. Daniel chapter 2, verse 38, when it says that thou art the head of gold, of course it was talking about Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian. But what I want you to see is that in the vision that Nebuchadnezzar had, verse 39, you'll see that it says, and after thee, because this is the interpretation that Daniel is given to Nebuchadnezzar on his dream. He says, and after thee, Nebuchadnezzar, shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass shall rule over all the earth. And then it mentions that fourth kingdom, which is strong as iron, which was Rome. So he tells them, way in Daniel, that it was going to already be some other nations that was going to come. So you're going to become a perpetual desolation. So when you get time, read Isaiah 13 and 14 as well. Then it says the woman sitteth. You go over there to where it says the woman sitteth. Back to Revelation 17. I don't hear any comments or any questions, anything. So I guess everybody is following okay so far. Because you can just chime in anytime. It says the woman sitteth. At the end there, it says the woman sitteth. So here the angel refers to the woman as sitting upon the 7 heads. Whereas in verse 3, she is spoken of simply as sitting on the beast. Thus to be sitting or the seat to be seated upon 7 heads is apparently the same as being seated upon the beast. So accordingly, there's no real distinction between the beast and his head, no difference, and probably extended as far as the sitting of the woman is concerned. So in other words, the sitting of the woman on the beast and the sitting of the head, sitting on the head, which if you think about it, she's sitting on top of the beast and the head is attached to the beast. She's on top. So when you read there, when I read that, there don't seem to be any distinction, any difference that say that something else is hidden in there. Maybe that's sitting on the heads and the sitting on the beast is something that we need to be really. Now, I believe it's the same because she's sitting on the beast and the beast has the heads. So she is sitting on it. So in essence, this verse is just letting us know, pointing to us that these heads are 7 mountains, and the 7 mountains is only where this woman is sitting at, because the woman is sitting on the beast, which makes sense to me. She's sitting on the beast, and the beast has the heads. So, Revelation 17:10, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other one is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. He must continue a short space. So it has been determined that the 7 heads and the 10 horns of Revelation 17 are not the same heads and horns identified in Revelation 13, but they are the same ones mentioned in Revelation chapter 12. So as you recall, the 7 heads and the 10 horns were attached to the sea beast in Revelation 13, which was identified as the papacy, leader of the Roman Catholic system. Thus, it was shown that the 7 heads were the leadership within the Roman Catholic Church, and the 10 horns were the 10 dynasties of the Holy Roman emperors during the Dark Ages. In other words, Rome did not have any more Roman emperors out of Rome, Italy. The emperors were emperors that were kings of other nations that became Holy Roman emperors. That's like me. That's just like, a president of the United States called himself, a counselor of another country. That's basically what you're doing. He has. The papacy is the head of the Catholic system, but his strong arm is kings of other nations. That's the reason why it makes so much sense that the earth beast of Revelation 13 is going to be exactly like the dynasties were in Revelation 13. That's why it makes so much sense, because just like the 10 dynasties supported Catholicism, the earth beast, United States, is going to be supporting Catholicism. Why is it that the presidents of the United States, going all the way back to Kennedy, I believe, they always got to go to the Vatican, bow down, kiss his foot, kiss his hand, kiss whatever they kissing over there? Why do they got to do that? Every last president done that. If you heard Trump was making all kind of accusations, making all kind of statements against him in his first term. He wound up going over there. And I believe he went over there already. I think he went over there again. I was going to be heading over there again. Every time they come into office, they got to go and visit the Pope. Think about that. I mean, that's interesting to me. Some say that the 7 heads and 10 horns of Revelation 12 to be the same as Revelation 13 and 17. But studying carefully, it's discovered that the 70 and 10 horns of Revelation 12 are the same as 17, but not 13, because they are attached to the dragon and not the sea beast, which is mentioned previously in papacy in Revelation 13, 1 and 2. Therefore, as mentioned in Revelation
Brother
12.
Birch,
Yes, who is this? Jack?
they're not the, it's not the same, both of them not the same thing.
Say that again, Denise?
I said the dragon and the sea beast is not the same thing.
No. The sea beast, if you're in Revelation 13, 1 and 2, that sea beast represents the Catholic system, the Catholic Church, the papacy, that system of Catholicism. And how we know that is because it matches up with the book of Daniel. When you go to the book of Daniel in chapter 7, see, this is the reason why all these different names that's being used have to be identified to get a clear understanding of who is referencing. And when you look at for example, Daniel chapter 7, verse 8, it talks about a little horn. And it talks about this little horn that spoke mighty things, great things. It spoke mighty things, great things. Now, this little horn, if you go to Daniel 7, 8, and you read that verse, it talks about a little horn that came up and uprooted 3 of the 10 horns that was before it. Verse 7. There was 10 horns that was attached to the Roman Empire. The papacy, which is the little horn, don't even say papacy yet. They just say little horn. The little horn came up and devoured 3 of them. It plucked up 3 of those horns. But it also makes mention that it had the eyes of a man and a mouth speaking great things. Now, who is it speaking great things against? When you go over to verse 25 in the same chapter. And he shall speak. Who shall speak? It's talking about that little horn that's mentioned in verse 8. And is also mentioned there in verse 24. If you read 24, it says, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. And another shall arise out of them. He shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. That's the same as that little horn that we read in verse 8. So then when you read verse 25, you would then see who is he speaking great things? Who is this little horn speaking great things against? Verse 25 says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High and wear out the saints of the Most High. Okay, all right. So we got a beast. We got a little horn that came out of a beast, the Roman system. This little horn devoured 3 of the other horns, and those horns represented nations of Europe. Devoured 3 of them. But it also spoke against the Almighty. So who is it that speaks against the Almighty? Now, when you go over, look at verse 11, same chapter, chapter 7. It says, and I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. That's that little horn. Remember it said in verse 8, it spoke great things. I beheld even till the beast was slain. It then transitioned the word of horn to beast. So you don't see beast identified in Daniel at all. It's not identified. When I say it's not identified with the papacy until you get to Revelation. It's no longer called a little horn. Now it's called a beast, the sea beast. And what does sea mean? Revelation 17:15 says that sea means people. So the papacy arrived, remember? It came up out of it was a little horn that came up out of those 10 horns, which came up out of the 4th beast, which was Rome. Sea means people. So we know that the sea beast represents the papacy. It represents that little horn. You there?
I'm here.
Okay. It represents that little horn. So the sea beast of Revelation 13, verse 1, with the 7 heads and 10 horns, is not the same as the scarlet colored beast or the red dragon in Revelation chapter 12. Those are two different entities, totally two different entities. But they both have 7 heads and 10 horns attached to them, which those are different as well. So that's how we know that when we get to Revelation 17, that beast of Revelation 17 can't be the sea beast. Why? Because the woman is the Roman Catholic system. The woman ain't riding upon herself. So if the beast is Rome, or the because in times past used to believe that the beast was the papacy, basically. That was the papacy. And then, of course, the woman was the church. So therefore, the church is sitting on top of the papacy. No, that doesn't even make sense. You got, why would they even I have not ran across the scripture yet where it really take the beast and the dragon and all them and just mix it all up like that. Where the beast and the woman is actually talking about the same thing. No, I haven't ran across that yet. Usually when you have distinct characters in a chapter like that, they usually represent something different. The sea beast of Revelation 13, well, let's go back to 12. The red dragon of Revelation 12 represents Satan. How do we know that? Because the scriptures tell us in 12:9 that this dragon is Satan and the devil in Revelation 12:9. So we know that the red dragon is Satan. So now we know that the red dragon is Satan. When you come over to Revelation chapter 17, verse 3, it says a scarlet colored beast. Scarlet is red. So that scarlet colored beast has to be talking about that red dragon, which is Satan. Now, if that's Satan, that means that woman can't be Satan. We know that because we already identified the woman as the one that sits on these 7 hills. And there's only one that sits on 7 hills. And that is the Roman Catholic system, the papacy. That's the only one that sits up on them. So the woman in Revelation chapter 17 is the church of the Roman Catholic system. The sea beast of Revelation chapter 13:1 is the Roman Catholic system. Those two are in agreement. The dragon that's in Revelation chapter 13, verse 4, is the same as the scarlet colored beast in chapter 17. The earth beast, that earth beast, you go through, you can look in, and we went through Revelation 16 and all of the false prophet. That's exactly what he is, a false prophet. The earth beast is nothing but a false prophet. He's getting people to believe an evil spirit, getting them to believe the image of a system that's corrupt. So he is the tail. He's teaching lies. This false prophet, which is the earth beast in that same Revelation 13. When we identify the characters, it becomes a little easier to identify the context. So, I mean, if you need more explanation about that, like I mentioned to you, I emailed you. If you want to, we can go even more into it. But yeah, the sea beast and the sea beast of Revelation 13 and the Satan, they're not the same. They're two different things. Now the sea beast got his power from Satan. The scriptures tell you that. when you look at Revelation 13, verse 2 and 4, 4 says, 13:4 says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. Now, he gave power to the beast, just like he give power to people today to do wrong things. But they're two separate entities, the sea beast and the dragon. And you can look right there in that verse, in that chapter 13, let you know it's two different entities. The sea beast can't be the dragon because the dragon is identified as a dragon in verse 4. So that means the beast, sea beast, has to be something else. He has to be, which is, it's the Catholic system. So that's how you know that the sea beast is not the dragon. It's two separate entities. So I hope that helps some.
It helps.
Okay, very good. But like I say, you know, if you need more explanation, need some more, because I want everybody to understand this. Really, I do want them to. I want everybody to understand it, because once you understand it, it's really going to become clear. And I know I've mentioned this many times before, but we're doing this Revelation series, but my mind is so much on this chronology of Revelation, just breaking it all down in chronology, in order, in order, and looking to do that someday. You know, I'm praying and asking Yah, if He's fit, at the beginning of next year, we're able to start that series, because we're going to be going into 2026. So it's going to be a lot of work, though, to do that. But I'm just praying Yah sees fit. If we're going to go into more explanation, and more light may come. More light. Every time we dig into this stuff, we get more light. More light. So therefore, Revelation 12, the 7 heads are as follows. And remember, the scriptures from Genesis and Revelation only speaks of 7 beasts. It only speaks of 7 beasts. The first 4 beasts came out of the sea. Revelation 7:3. Go to Revelation chapter 7, verse 3. I don't think we're going to finish this. We're going to have 5. I think we're going to have 5 sections. I don't think we're going to finish this. Because I'd rather for you all to really understand all this than to just be running through this. And I'm actually feel like I'm going slow, but I might be going quick to you all. I don't know. Because I don't feel like I'm making any ground here. And I just want to make sure everybody understands. So when you go to Daniel chapter 7 and you look at verse 3, look what it says. And the 4 great beasts came up out of the sea, diverse one from another. So when they come out of the sea, remember, the sea is like people. These nations came up out of themselves, out of people. Babylon developed out of people. Persia was the second world ruler. It developed out of people. Greece, third world ruler. It developed out of people. Pagan Rome developed out of people. That was the first 4 heads. Those were the first 4 heads. Every beast have a head, right? Because Daniel tells us that, even in Daniel chapter 2. I read that to you already. I read verse 38, but let me read, the last part of 30, but let me read look at verse 32. It says, this is Daniel 2, verse 32. This image head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, and his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Jump down to 38, verse 38. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven have he given into thine hand. So Daniel is revealing to him the interpretation of the dream. He's telling him it's given you in thy hand, and have made thee, Yah has made you the ruler over them all. Nebuchadnezzar, thou art this head of gold. Even though it's talking about head of gold, heads can represent the leaders. They can be they are the leaders of the beast. They're the leaders of them. so the heads can come out of the beast. Babylon is the beast system. The head is Nebuchadnezzar, came up out of it. He's the king. He's the head. Nebuchadnezzar the king, the head, came out of the beast system of Babylon. Rome, out of Babylon. So Babylon is the first head. Mede Persia, the head that first came out of there is the one that came over and took Babylon away. Babylon away from them when he took away from Belshazzar in chapter 5. Go to chapter 5 of Daniel. Chapter 5 of Daniel. When you read chapter 5 of Daniel, verse 30 and 31, this is where the second head come into play. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldean, slain. He was slain. And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. And then when you read later on, you continue on, it talks about the reign of Cyrus too. Like over in chapter 8, chapter 6, it talks about in that same chapter, it talks about Cyrus. Many think that Darius the Mede was speaking of Cyrus in another term. But either way it goes, it was the Medes. And you have a head, and the head come out of that kingdom, which is the beast system. So you got Babylon, Mede Persia, and then the third one to rule. It never told us who it is, but history tells us who it is. And how do we know? Because what happened is we go over to the book of Daniel again, chapter 8. Daniel now. Daniel is having this a vision, and he having a vision of a ram. The ram had 2 horns, but the ram and I'm going to show you, the ram represented the Mede Persians who came after Babylon. Okay, so, but then in chapter 8, it then says, start with verse 4, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. So the Mede Persians, they became great because they're the ones who took it out away from Babylon. But then you look at verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west. On the face, it says, on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him with fury of his power. And I saw him come closer to the ram, and he was moved with anger against him, and smote the ram, broke his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. So now who is that goat? The goat was the next world ruler, which was Greece. How do we know it was Greece? Because now in that same chapter, you go to verse 20 and verse 21, it tells you who it is. Verse 20 says, the ram which thou sawest, those 2 horns, was the kings of Medes and Persians, the ones that came in and took Babylon. But then it says, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia. Is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Who in history was the first king of Greece when they was in rule? Who ruled the world as king? Alexander the Great. It is without a doubt history. It's recorded in history. He ruled from 336 BC to 168 BC. It was instantaneous. 13 years. He did it quickly. 13 years he ruled. So we got the first three beasts there: Babylon, Mede, Persia, and Greece. The fourth beast was pagan Rome. How do we know it's pagan Rome? Because when we read the scriptures, it never tells us in the old covenant the words Rome, but we do find out that it's Rome later on in the new covenant. Because who was ruling at the time of Yahushua's time? Rome. Go with me over to Luke chapter 2, verse 1. Luke chapter 2, verse 1. And by the way, even though Rome ruled in 168 years, this right here, this Caesar Augustus, that was their first Roman emperor. Caesar Augustus was the first Roman emperor. So here we go. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. How can you tax the whole world unless you rule in the world? How could you tax the whole world unless you rule in the world? It says all the world. So how could you tax it if you're not ruling it? They were the fourth world ruler, pagan Rome. So that's the first four beasts. That's the heads. That's those four heads, not beasts. That's those four heads that are attached to that beast, to that scarlet colored beast. And the reason why that's not the papal system, because the papal system didn't exist during the time of Babylon, Mede, Persia, Greece, and pagan Rome. They came out of pagan. They were after pagan Rome. So there's no way that those heads could come out of papal Rome if papal Rome didn't exist during the time of Babylon. So who did exist? Satan. Satan has always been there. That's why we know that beast. That's why it's attached to the beast. Because he has always been the influence. That's why it's attached to him. That's why those 7 heads and horns are attached to him. So then that's the first 4. Then as you remember that little horn that came up out of that dreadful and terrible beast in Daniel 7:7, that fourth beast, that fourth one, that fourth terrible beast that came up, dreadful and terrible. This little horn devoured 10 of the horns that came up out of that dreadful and terrible beast. Remember, we just talked about that earlier. This dreadful and terrible beast had 10 horns, and the 10 horns, 3 of them was devoured by that little horn who spoke great things against the Most High, who when transitioned from the old covenant to the new covenant is no longer called little horn, but he's called the sea beast. He's called the sea beast. So now, which makes sense because Rome, pagan Rome, came out of the sea. All 4 of those first 4 came out of the sea. All 4 of them came out of the sea. Babylon, Mede, Persia, Greece, and pagan Rome, all 4 of them came out of the sea. So it would make sense that the 5th one, since all it's doing is just changing the name from little horn to beast, also came out of pagan Rome, which also came out of the sea, which makes sense. That's the reason when you get to Revelation 13 and you look at chapter 13, verse 11, that one came out of the earth because that didn't develop out of the Roman Empire. It didn't develop out of the papacy. Matter of fact, they fled the papacy. They fled Europe and they came to the United States. So they came to this land that wasn't inhabited by a lot of people. The Native Americans here, but it was no nation formed yet on this earth over here in the United States until they came over here fleeing persecution in Europe. So here, this is where the sixth beast is. So you got the first four: Babylon, Mede Persia, Greece, pagan Rome, papal Rome, United States, and that leaves the seventh one, which is why it didn't come out of the sea, it didn't come out of the earth. That's the reason why it doesn't call it that in 17. It just says beast, because it is the beast, because it has all the attachments to it that it has control over. It's got the woman sitting on top of it. It's got the horns way back when up until this time. It's got the heads. It's got the horns, which is going to be 10 kings. It's got all the kings of the earth. It's got all the inhabitants of the earth. It's got all the harlots. You played whoredom. Played fornication with the harlots. It got all the inhabitants. That's what chapter 13 said. So when you put it all together, it really starts to make a lot of sense. It really began to add up. So that's really the seven heads. So I'm calling these heads kings, because even though the scriptures show the heads as the mountains in verse 9, it then falls in verse 10 with letting us know that there are seven kings, and they are a representation of the ownership of the dragon, which has seven heads attached to him. Verse 3 mentions that the beast, who is the dragon, has 7 heads and 10 horns. Another important fact about why these heads is so significant throughout history, when Yah sets up his people on earth to be a beacon in the world, to put forth his light through them so the world could see the gracious, merciful, and loving Yah he truly was, Israel, the Jews, was those chosen people to put forth his message from the deliverance of the devil. See, remember, they were a kingdom. The Jews, Israel, the nation of Israel. Israel was a kingdom. They had laws. They had laws governed that Yah gave them. Yah gave them the law. He's the one who gave them the law for them to follow. He's the one who gave it to them. So he's the one who gave that to them. Now, but we know how much they failed. And Yah, out of mercy, as it says there in Numbers 14:22, he kept tempting them. And throughout history, even through there, all the way to the time that it was taken over by Babylon, Yah allowed them to do that. He allowed Babylon to come in here and take them. He allowed it to happen because of their wicked ways. So after the chosen people of Yah, the Jews continue rejecting Yah. They continue rejecting him. Acts 13:46 says rejected. Go to Acts 13:46. Acts 13:46. Then Paul and Barnabas waxed bold. If you read the previous verses, you see how Paul and Barnabas was witnessing to the people. Well, let's start there at verse 42. And when the Jews were gone, this is Acts chapter 13, starting with verse 32. Acts 13, verse 42. And when the Jews were gone out of the synagogue, the Gentiles besought that these words might be preached to them the next Sabbath. Now, when the congregation was broken up, many of the Jews' religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, who speaking to them persuaded them to continue in the grace of Yah. Somebody say something. So 44, and the next Sabbath day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of Yah. They were hungry for it. 45. But here we go. But when the Jews saw the multitude, they were filled with envy and spake against those things which were spoken by Paul, contradicting and doing what? Blaspheming. 46. Then Paul and Barnabas waxed bold and said it was necessary that the word of Yah should first have been spoken to you, but seeing you put it from you and judge yourself unworthy of everlasting life, lo, we turn to the Gentile. For so have Yahuwah commanded us, saying, I have set thee to be a light of the Gentile, praise Yah, that thou shouldst be for salvation unto the end of the earth. And when the Gentiles heard this, they were glad and glorified the word of Yah, and as many as were ordained to eternal life believed. As many as the eternal life believed. Israel was a kingdom, it's a nation. They had laws. They had a Ruach system that Yah had gave them, a services, worshiping system that they were supposed to go by. They neglected everything, broke the laws, did everything. Just like we're doing now. Did it all. Everything. They rejected it. And it's really sad when I think about it. More and more I think about this, and more sad I become. When Yahushua walked this earth, he told them over in Matthew 10, 5-7, that they was to go to the house of Israel first. That's only go to the house of Israel. Because their probation, their period of time of mercy hadn't closed yet. Yah was trying to get them to still be those people. Like he tried to get us to still be those people. But just like the ark, just like Sodom and Gomorrah, mercy ran out. That's why he made the statements he made in Acts 13:46. Lo, we turn to you guys don't want to do the right thing. Lo, we turn to the Gentile. They'll listen. Look how happy they were. That's why even today, do you know how easy it is, it seems, to talk to a babe or someone who don't know a lot about it, religion, than to talk to somebody who's coming out of these churches and denominations who think they know a lot of stuff. It's easy to talk to babe. So then, when you go over to Matthew 21:43, that's when Yahushua told them. So I was that message. Let me not paraphrase it. Over 21. See, he had already told them to go to the Jews, but then he said he said in 21:43, he then said, therefore I say unto you, the kingdom of Yah shall be taken from you and given to a nation, bringing forth the fruit thereof. And that's what you read in Acts 13:46. It was given to the Gentiles. And now we're all part of it. Ain't no Gentile, ain't no Jew or Greek, ain't none of that. John 17 said we're all one. We're all one in Yahushua. There's no Greek, no Jew. There's none of that.
And flesh and blood can't make it to the flesh and blood can't make it to the kingdom.
What's that, Rich?
I say flesh and blood cannot make it to the kingdom. They have to be born again.
That's right. That's absolutely correct. You know, when we just here's a picture here. I showed this picture before, but let me just let you see. I want you to see something here. And guys, I much as I hate to say this, but we're gonna have to wind up having 5 parts here. So
That's all right.
yeah, we're gonna have to wind up having 5 parts. And because I wanted to try to get it done before we got to the feast. And I wanted to have a day between there, but nah, we gotta go all the way through. So you're gonna see another part.
They're gonna bring in the fees anyway. That I feel that the fair part.
Yeah, you're right, Rich. Thank you. See how Rich make me feel good. So I want y'all to look at this particular one here. It's just a drawing that I created here. Let you see something. I wrote the 7 hills. You see those 7 in white there that represents the hills. I wrote that little picture, like a figure that shows the apostate, the papacy inside that little bubble. You got the little golden cup there full of the abomination and filthiness. And then I got the little 10 horns attached to that red line going across, represents the scarlet colored beast. And watch what happens here. I don't know if it's going to act right though, and I hope it does. Watch what happens. See, it didn't do it. Well, didn't do it. Didn't do what I wanted it to do. Man, I was hoping it would do it. Well, didn't do it. But what it was supposed to do, I was going to let you see how Babylon was falling. The first one is no longer a head. Then the second one was going to fall. It's no longer a head. You know, I got to get this to let you see this, because sometimes the pictures, if you all can just hold on a second here. I don't know why this did this for, because I thought it was okay. Oh, okay. Okay, we won't worry about it right now. I do have it. We'll do it later on. So I'm just showing you this one right here. I'm showing it as a whole right now, but probably tomorrow. You'll see it tomorrow. I think tomorrow, Yah willing, what I was talking about. But this picture is a picture of really Revelation 17. It's a picture of all this together, with the exception of all the kings of the earth and all the heavens. None of that's on there. But these heads and all that stuff is on there, and the horns. And you'll see. You'll see. I'm gonna let you see. This is not the one. It's on here, because I got it on here again. The next one, I just wanted you to see the 7 heads and 10 horns here. You see where it's numbered, and all these heads are attached to this red line going across, which is a scarlet colored beast. The 10 horns there you see are attached to the scarlet colored beast, and the woman there is sitting on top of it with the cup with all the abominations. So but I'm going to show you something, I think tomorrow. I think hopefully it'll show up tomorrow. So.
Can you just go to the other one and show it?
Yeah, you want to see it? Yeah, I could jump to it. Yeah. Let me go to it right here. Now, let me make sure. This should be the one here. Yeah, you see, okay, you see this right here? Now, what this is representing is the chronological order of the heads. So Babylon led first. Now they got the time frame on them, 609 to 539. The scriptures, and the reason why I didn't do it yet, because I hadn't really got to the verse about his fallen. But we'll go ahead and do it right now so you can see it. You notice it says, so Babylon is fallen. Babylon is the first one that falls. So in other words, it no longer in existence. It no longer ruled. It's out of the picture. The second one is the Mede-Persians. They're no longer in the picture. They fell in 331 BCE. They're done. So it's no longer they're the fallen one. Okay. The third one that fell is Greece. They fell. So that's why now it's in order. When you see those 4 beasts that's coming out of the sea, each one of them had their time. They had their heads. So they're gone. The fourth one, you see the number 4 is pagan Rome, and they fall. That's the one when you read it in the text, when it says 5 are fallen, that's the 5 that is fallen. And here's the fourth one, pagan Rome is fallen. And then, now pagan Rome is the fourth one, but now the fifth one doesn't come up again, the papal Rome. Now remember, they led during the time of pagan, when pagan Rome ruled before, in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1, they was ruling during the 4th beast time. Now the beast is healed, and then he's going to fall again. He's going to fall, and this is where he's getting ready to fall at. But right now, he's got to come. that fifth head is what we're waiting on right now, really. We're kind of waiting on it. It's materializing because the wound has been healed. So the wound has been healed, and eventually, the wound is being healed, but it's being helped out. It's being helped out by the one that's going to be which is going to be the United States. Is going to be supporting the papal Rome system. See, Rome is look like it is going to fall. Rome is going to fall. Pagan Rome, that is. Papal Rome is going to fall. United States is going to fall. The one is. And then the seventh king. It only leaves that red line. It only leaves that red line, those 10 horns, that seventh king, red line all the way to the seventh one. You see growing. He is the one that's coming, that scarlet colored beast. And then all of a sudden, the seventh king, the devil, Revelation 17:10, it has not yet come, but he will continue for a short space. That's that. And it makes sense that he'd be a short space with Satan. Yah's not going to have Satan down here ruling for years. That ain't going to happen. That's why it's going to be a short space. And Sabbath, I spoke about the short space. So this is the one I was going to show. It's going to come up again, but I don't have to show it then because you already saw it now. You wanted to see it now. But that's basically what it is. You got the first king, first head, second head, third head, fourth head, fifth head, sixth head, seventh head. And there you go. That's the seven heads. That is the seven heads. And I want to go into not now. We'll start tomorrow. Let me go back.
Brother Brash, I have a question.
Yes.
So papal Rome, you said it fell in 1798, right?
Yes, 1260 years.
Okay, and then where did it come? Was it able to?
It's coming back with 42.
Oh. Okay,
Remember,
so you're breaking up. I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Are you breaking up?
Go ahead.
Okay, I showed it as the fifth beast only because he came back, right? Back. If you read chapter 13, verse 1, that's during that 1260 year period. And it's actually during the time that's not the 42-month period. You've been taught, just like I've been. I don't know if you've been taught that. I don't know if you ever heard that or not. But it's always been taught that the 42 months that's mentioned there in Revelation 13:5, and I've always had a problem with this, but I never really researched it until the last 3 or 4 years or so, a couple of years or so. But I've always had a problem because they always took Revelation chapter 13. Look at verse 13, verse 5. And we're really finished. I'm just going to go through this because I think this is important for tonight at least. 13:5. You see where it says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things, and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. You remember hearing that those 42 months is the same 1260 years?
I think I heard that, yeah.
You remember that?
I think I might have heard that.
Rich, are you there? Rich gone.
No, I'm still here. I remember it.
Do you remember hearing that?
Yeah. I remember it.
So the problem with that, huge, gigantic problem with that, is verse 3. Verse 3 is the problem with that thinking, that this is the same time frame as chapter 13, verse 1. It's not the same time frame as 13 verse 5, because verse 3 throws that out the water. because, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. So when did the wound happen? When did the wound of the papal system happen?
1798.
1798. And that's the reason why I show it on here. Show it on here as the fifth one, only because it's the same one in that. It comes
Yeah.
back. It says, and I saw it. What's that in the background? As it was wounded to death. But then it says, and his deadly wound was healed. His deadly wound was healed. So if he's healed, that means he's back to his power again. That can't be the same frame.
And he go out into the 42 months right after
Yeah.
he healed. Yeah.
But so that's why it can't be. But it's still the essence that it's the fifth beast, but it's like he's part of the fourth, and he comes back as the fifth, when he's always been the fifth, really. But the thing is, he was the fifth before, and he lost his power. But then he comes back again. He's still five. He's still the same one, because the seven beasts are seven different beasts. Babylon, Mede, Persia, Greece, pagan Rome, papal Rome, when it ruled in its 1260-year period, wounded, and then came back from being healed, it's still the same one, five. And then six, which of course, United States, that has to happen in the 42-month period. I mean, sometime in this time frame. And then the seventh. He has to continue for a short space. It makes sense. He'll be shorter than any of these rules. He'd be very short, extremely short. So you understand, Keisha?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
When it say verse 10, 17, 5 fallen, that's still the fifth one to come back. And the one is in the United States, and the other that seventh.
And who is that?
The Satan whoever coming at the end.
How long is he going to continue?
This is short space.
That makes sense. I went through that short space Sabbath, I think, with everybody. That's going to be a very short period, and it makes sense because we believe that Satan's going to become as an angel of light as we get closer to the end of the trumpets, which means that the plagues are only 40 days. So he ain't going to have a lot of time. That's going to be a short space. It's going to be a short space from the time that he comes into power to the time this thing's going to be over. It's going to be a short space.
And it made sense because Yahushua was in the wilderness for 40 days, being tipped by the devil. So 40 days in the wilderness.
There you go. You just validated it. Yep. That's the reason. What you just said right there was one of the reasons why that had to be changed. Originally, we had it as 45 days, but the first 5 days happen before mercy closes. And then the 40 days is the period of time of the plagues. Remember how I had it at 45. It is still the last 45 days. It's still the last 45 days. It's just that 40 of those days is the actual plagues. 3.5 days this happens before mercy closes. You remember is the 144,000 being killed and then rised up and ascended into heaven. And then that day and a half is that time frame between the second woe and the third woe that's going to come quickly. So those are 5 days. And how we came up with 45 days is from Daniel 12, 1335 days. It tells you that if you go to Daniel chapter 12, this is how we come up with 45 days. When you go to Daniel chapter 12, it tells you, you have to read the language of it. Daniel chapter 12, it tells you, verse 12. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,335 5 and 30 days. What would be the blessing? What's the part? What we waiting on?
For you to come back.
Yeah, for him to come back. So it's going to be a blessing. So what day would that be? That'd be his second appearance. So the 1,335 days, you start there and work your way back and subtract verses 12, chapter 12, verse 11 there. And from the time that the daily sacrifice should be taken away and the abomination that make it desolate set up, there should be 1,290 days. So when you take the 1,290 days, subtract it from the 1,335, that's where you come up with 45 days at. And then 5 of those days happened prior to mercy closing. Like I said, the 3.5 days for the 144 dying and resurrecting in a day and a half in verse 14 of chapter 11 is for between the second and the third woe that's going to come quickly. And that was a day and a half. So that's 5 days. Then that leaves 40 days in the wilderness. 40 days. I mean, it just all lines up. I don't, yeah, it really lines up.
Yeah, he already used 40 days anyway. Back at the flood, the 40 years he used 40,
Yes.
40 days. They fasted for 40 days.
That's right. That's right. 40 has this. Did you just mention about the flood, right? 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah.
So, and in the wilderness, 40 days, you just mentioned. So, yeah. But all right, we're gonna end it right there. And I gotta go back to
But that just goes back to there's nothing new under the sun. Yah is still using the same numbers that he used before, and he's still using them. And really that helps us because he uses the same numbers. Numbers mean a lot. The 40 and the 7 is completion, and the 40 fast, the 40 days of the rain. I mean, it just. But this last one, Jim, that I think that really did it for everybody. That showing that diagram.
Oh, this one right here.
Yeah, with them falling.
Yeah.
It always help. It always helps when you can see something.
See something, yeah. Well, that's right. Eric, he mentioned. Go ahead and show it. I'm just so you guys to know. I had this order about myself. Jacqueline picks with me all the time, and Lisa. I wasn't going to show it till I got to it, but that's why I went to it.
That's a good diagram.
Yeah,
it is.
So I just wanted I wanted you guys to see this, and like you say, Gray, the picture is better than 1,000 words to that.
Yes.
So this is really Revelation 17 right here. It really is right here. This is the bulk of it right here. And yeah. So I'm gonna have to send another one out. I'm gonna send another one out. I'm gonna send another one out. We're gonna mess around there. We're gonna go all the way to the feet. Let's see. I mean, I can send this chart to you all, but unless you got PowerPoint, you won't see all the drop-offs and all that stuff. You just have a picture. If you all want this one.
You can send it.
Okay.
I just took a screenshot.
Oh, okay, yeah. You all want? Well, some of y'all don't. Yeah. Do you all want a screen? Y'all just taking a screenshot, or you want me to send it to you too?
Well, it's on my phone. I can't take a shot.
All right, I'll send it to you.
Can take a phone and hit the power and the two volumes at the same time. Do a screenshot.
Yeah, you can take a screenshot. I've done it before. Yes, the power. I don't know. That's the way it is on the Android. The same way on the iPhone too.
Yeah, it should be the same way.
What you say, Rich? Do what?
You take put your finger on the power button and the finger kind of like in the middle of the two volume buttons and hit it at the same time. It should be able to just screenshot it.
You usually hear a click or something. You'll see something. I know on mine. I hear a click. Something.
If you send the PowerPoint, and we'll have the motion. That's what I want. I want to see that.
You know, you on your computer. If you are, I can send you. I can send you the PowerPoint if you have PowerPoint on your computer. Because you know, otherwise I don't think you're going to be able to see it unless you have it on your computer.
If you can just send us like this, all your PowerPoint, so we'll at least have the pictures. We have it as our study guide.
You say see the PowerPoint and say that again?
Just send the PowerPoint so we can just have or these slides, like how you always send. That way we'll have our study sheet.
PDF.
Yes, you can do a PDF.
Okay, I'll send it to you soon we finish here.
Yeah, can you put me in the Zoom? I'm gonna screenshot it and send it to Grady.
Oh, okay. Well, Keisha, you still want it, right?
Yes, I like to have the visual and go back and read all of the slides you have.
Okay.
The study guide.
Okay. Yeah, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I don't know if there's anything else anybody else have to say. I think we may have broke a little ice tonight.
I think so. Are you okay, Sister Denise?
You there, Denise?
No, she's not on. I don't see her picture.
Well, her picture's there, but I don't know. Sometimes she might be at work though. I think sometimes.
No, I see it now.
Yeah, her picture is there. She said earlier she understood, but I want to still make sure. But all right, guys. Yep. What was it? You know this originally was 3 parts. Now it's 5.
Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome.
Okay, so all right, guys. We if there's nothing else, we can go ahead and let's have closing prayer. All right. Dear Father in heaven, we come before you again this day. We thank you so much for your word and your mercy. We thank you, Lord, that you have given us the opportunity, first of all, that we can breathe the breath of life, to be able to open up your scriptures, to be able to read and to study. We pray that you would continue to be with each and last one of us, help our minds and our hearts to be able to resonate your word, even in the complexity of some of the texts and some of the words that's in here. Help us to get a clearer understanding so we can put everything together so that when days come about as they move forward to your son's soon return, we'll all be prepared and ready because we have been studying and we've been looking for that time for when you came. We're not looking for you. We want you to come back now, but we also need you to help us, Father, to better understand things so we can be prepared for you. We ask this in so be it. So be it.
So be it.
Amen.
So
Thank you,
all
Jim.
right. Yeah.
I said thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, you guys. This is
Thank
I just my biggest thing is I'd rather do this 8 times and everybody understand it than do it 1 time and everybody don't understand it, and then you where you start at. I mean, when we come out of this Revelation series, I really want people to understand this. When we come out of this, I don't want anybody to be confused or anything. Because now I do believe that Yah has blessed us to get an understanding of it. And the understanding is still coming. Because we'll talk about it later on another time, but there's something that Eric came up with too that I thought was interesting too, that adds on to it kind of. But we won't talk about it now. But there's because we got to do. I want to do some more digging into that. But I think he's right about that. So, and it's dealing with Revelation 17. So as we move along, we're growing. We're all growing.
Yeah.
It's a growth process for all of us. You know.
Yeah.
So I just thank God that He found fit to give it to us, to let us have this. And I thank God that all of us is on here, that we're able to listen to what the Ruach has to say to us. Because you all do realize that God, He gives it, like the scripture says, that he gives His kingdom to whoever He wants. He gives His word to whoever who wants to hear, who seeks Him. Whoever wants it, He'll give it to you. Nobody can ever come to me and tell me, well, y'all didn't want me to have the word. He didn't give it to me. No. You didn't want it.
That's right.
You may slip and want to blame y'all. No, you didn't want it, because there ain't no way in the world that you gonna tell me that He don't want you to have it when He's already done said that He would have it, that no one is lost. But then He ain't gonna give you the word when you seeking Him. No. That's you, my man.
Yeah.
That ain't God. That's you.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree, because if it's something that, and His word is important, and you ask Him for it, He ain't gonna wait no 3 or 4 years before He give it to you.
Oh, what do you mean? So He gonna let you just go ahead, as much as He hates sin, He just gonna let you just keep sinning. So a person is diligently studying, trying to understand the truth, and y'all's gonna wait a year, 2 years, 3 years before He give him that truth. Come on, man. Yeah. Anyway, I don't buy that. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I don't buy it either.
I don't buy that. Not a lick.
Yeah. And we always saying that Yah is a right now Yah. If you're a right now Yah, He ain't gonna be waiting to give you something that you need right now.
Right, exactly. Well, personally speaking, I'm a living witness that Yah has answered my prayers before I can even get it out my mouth sometimes. He has answered my prayer before I even woke up the next day. Ain't no way in the world He waiting a whole year to give me an answer. Man, please. I can't. See, some conversations, and you don't even know you've been talking about that.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any sense.
That's true.
It doesn't make any sense to say that Yah prolongs truth for you to grow, and He didn't let you just continue on in whatever you're doing until a year, 2 years later, and you're diligently seeking Him. Oh no, I don't believe that. Now you ain't diligently seeking Him. You still lukewarm and all over the place, okay, that's a little different. Yeah, I just say then, you may never come to understanding because you can't get your act together.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really seeking him and looking for his blessings, looking for him to help you to to understand and reason things out, there's no way he's prolonging that. Yeah. But all right, well, I don't have anything else. You guys don't have anything else. I guess tomorrow, 6:30, same time, station. Y'all willing?
All right.
All right. Y'all take care. Have a blessed
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.